Well, it's a new day of wrenching, and this is the smallest thing on earth, but you should have seen this cap. I've been actually bending on this for a while. I don't know what somebody did with it, but this little gas cap had been completely bent out around, so I've been playing around with it for a while, just running pliers around the ring of it and the edge of it, and we're gonna grind that off and repaint that and put that back. Let's start with something easy before we move on to the rest of the timing and troubleshooting on the motor. Just for giggles, just to see what it was, I'm going to guess that was probably original Buick green. I saw some before photos before the car was repainted in the black that it is right now, and that looks like standard 1950 green color. I'll have to look that up just to see what it was. I don't really like it, and I would never paint the car this particular color, but it's interesting to see. I'll have to use some evapor rust or something to get the center all cleaned out. So moving on to timing the ignition, once you have your point set and your gap is correct and your spark is appropriately set, you can move on to doing the timing. To have your timing correct, it has to be at dead neutral, meaning no advance from either the vacuum advance or the centrifugal advance. So I'm working now on trying to disable the vacuum advance. So I kind of had it a little bit wrong in my head the other day. I thought maybe I had proven that the diaphragm was intact because of the spring, that pressure that I felt in there. But I've checked the diagram for this vacuum advance, and that little module right there on the left has a big spring in it. It's spring-loaded tension. So at rest, there is no advance until vacuum begins to be generated, which is why they tell you, you can't have your engine idling at a higher RPM when you're doing your ignition timing, because you're starting to develop vacuum and you're beginning to advance your timing. And that spring is pretty stiff. I was surprised. I was pushing pretty hard, and it takes a fair amount of pressure, it feels like, to spin that breaker plate. And just to remind everyone, so the rotor here is going to be going counterclockwise. As you generate vacuum, you're going to wind up pulling on this arm right here, which is going to move your points to kind of slightly rotate in this direction, that direction. So this is going counterclockwise, and you're now moving your entire breaker plate clockwise, and that makes the spark happen a little bit sooner. So the comedy was I was on the other side there trying to figure out, well, I'll just disconnect the vacuum over there, and I'm going to do some vacuum tests. I got a little pump, and I'm all excited at first there, and I've even closed off that end over there to try to see if I can generate vacuum, and if I'll hold it and test that diaphragm on the vacuum advance. And I wasn't getting any vacuum at all, like I had a leak. And then when I came over and looked on this other side, I kind of looked down here, and well, that's no good. That's clearly no vacuum. So that right there is the wrong way to disable your vacuum advance. I can't remember if that could have happened when I was taking that advance off yesterday, or it may have been that way for a while. I don't know, but it was clearly a weak spot in the tubing anyhow. It needed to be fixed. But I can probably still test the diaphragm. I'll just get on that little bit of tubing off there on the left, see if we can generate some vacuum, and see if we can manually advance that plate with vacuum pressure. And that way I'll have tested the vacuum in the vacuum advance. And when I'm all done testing, I'll leave it just disconnected, because that basically ensures that no matter what RPM you're running at, you're never going to have any vacuum advance, because your tube is broken, you're at atmospheric pressure. So my vacuum tubing was a little too big for that little skinny hose there, so that's electrical tape. You can just wrap that around your hose to make it a little bit wider in diameter, and then you can get a nice tight fitting with your vacuum hose on there. Beats trying to find different tubing or different connections. So now you can kind of see it happen in real time. I've got the vacuum pump connected to it there, and I'll pull. See, each time I squeeze there, we're getting a little bit more spin on that plate. And that's about our maximum travel right there. And on top of it, we're actually holding vacuum, which is good. That means the diaphragm is intact in there. I'll try to release that pressure, and you can watch the plate actually rotate back. And now we're at no advance. And that is about, at least from the picture I got there, that's about the maximum you're going to get in terms of advance. It's not a whole lot. And hopefully that plate is working well enough that I'm actually going to get the maximum travel I can get. A little bit of advance is a good thing. I don't know exactly how much manifold pressure we're going to be developing routinely. Hopefully about 14 or 15, I would think. That might be enough to, it seems like at about 15 that's advanced, that's enough. But anyway, that's a good test. So I like just seeing that little guy advance like it's supposed to, and then return when you have lower manifold pressure at idle. I've hooked up a tube hose here to the exhaust. Hopefully I can keep from fuming myself so bad today. But this, I seem to do this in the shops, and this is a nice thing when you have it. So I'll open a few more doors and get a little more air. We obviously had some, now have some vacuum manifold leak here, and still over there. But I tell you what, the car started up real easy, and it's got a real nice running idle here right now. I'm real pleased with the way it's running right now. I went ahead and decided, because I couldn't stand the look of it, to see if I couldn't improve this situation here. I tried actually closing that off somehow. It was a little difficult. I may just put a temporary band on there. I don't know. Eventually that's got to be fixed. That hopefully is a fitting there. It has no faces on it whatsoever, and it makes me a little nervous about trying to twist that off of there. But I think that's a fitting, and I think it would have to come off. Yeah, it's hard to see. If there were faces, they're gone. But I believe that's going to have to come off. Makes me a little nervous because I don't want to damage the intake manifold at all, of course. But I think we're going to see what we can do with that for a moment. Well, I got a fitting off. That's a strange little fitting right there. It looks like kind of like something inside of there as well, in addition to maybe a casting. I can't tell what that ring is around there. I'm going to pick around that a little more and see what I can do to just kind of use what I have there. I really don't want to make more problems for myself. If I can just get anything that'll seal on there, maybe be a little heat resistant, that's what you need, just to create vacuum. That's all we're doing, is creating vacuum at high speed. That takeoff there is the high speed. It connects to the intake manifold there, and actually at high speed, when your intake manifold pressure drops, that regulates the fuel flow for higher speed driving on there. But it needs to be sealed and working right, and I might as well go ahead and take care of that now. And it may actually, if it's not sealed, that may cause a little bit of a manifold leak, and that may cause a little bit of issues with the idling as well, possibly. So I'm gonna get that fixed as best as I can. And here's the kind of the strange little cap dude that came off of there. I'll have to think about this for a bit. I'm pretty pleased with this. This is, since this was a brake line, I just wound up flaring this end down here and putting on a brake line fitting, and I drilled out that end till it's just big enough to go over that little spot, that little nipple that cleaned out right there, and I'll put some gasket sealer around that just to make it a better seal, and that looks like something that should seal well. Could potentially be taken apart later if you needed to, and it mates up very nicely in terms of the where it goes right up here. I got a good bend on it and everything like that. So that and I've already done a kind of a suction test on that tube, so it's sealed. It's a compression fitting down there, so it's tight. So this should work pretty good. Well, more discoveries. So I'm using the super cool little wrench. Look how it has a flare. I can get around there real nice. I put it on here and without, like with just fingers, was able to adjust that nut. So that one was never adjusted. That one was never cinched down. So I'm surprised it was keeping timing at all. I have no idea where the timing is on this thing. And I guess there is probably a similar nut on the other side that I can't see. And hopefully I can get on it and maybe loosen that up. I got to figure out. I thought I would just start here with just adjusting that one, trying to hopeful that it'd be not too tight. I can't believe it was that loose. And there's some grease down there. I think I'm gonna degunk it, get it so it'll get some bite without slipping, and then maybe we'll try adjusting the timing a little bit. It certainly is a much milder, much slower idle, probably closer to the 450 that it was supposed to be. That's not too bad. It's definitely a slow idler. It may even change yet again once I put on the air horn back on top of there. But anyway, let's hear it run a little bit here. I'll go give a little bit of gas and you can see that it seems to be actually carbureting pretty decently mid-throttle, even without the vacuum, without the vacuum advance. So check it out. That's definitely settled right down. All right, let's go see what RPM we're at. I'm kind of curious. I'm pretty pleased with that. It goes down between 490, 500, 550. That's probably closer to what it was as factory. I could maybe do a little better if I had I kind of need a stronger timing light signal, and it may be partially because it's a 6-volt system. It's not throwing a very strong spark or strong strobe flash. But anyway, that's idling along pretty nicely, and I think we're going to call that good. I've got the distributor buttoned down pretty nice and tight now. Those wrenches were awesome. I don't know if you got to give a shout out to my dad for the awesome angle wrench that lets you get underneath the distributor there and do some tightening and loosening. That helps a lot. So I'm pleased with this. Let's check some temperatures real quick, and then I'm gonna probably put the air horn on and see what it runs like with a little bit more dampening rather than unrestricted carburetor. Well, so far that's a total success. I'm very pleased with the way it's running and idling. I let it shut off for a while. I put the air horn back on, and I haven't quite even buttoned it quite down yet here, but you know, that's generally a pretty good idle. It says down here we're doing what, maybe 680, 700. Probably once it's really good and warm, it'll drop down again to the mid 500s like it was before. And I don't think you can really complain about that too much. Very good. We're at 29.7 a dwell, almost 30. That's about right. We're pretty close on our ignition timing. It's running pretty smooth. I can accelerate it without it hiccuping or stumbling or doing anything like that. So yeah, I think we're going to call that kind of a win. That's pretty darn smooth idle for this old of a car. So let's move on to improving some of the other things that were on our list. This ain't nothing, but at least we have a black cap once again. I've completely de-rusted it off there and scrubbed it and made it look nice again. And we'll put a clear coat. This paint that's on there, it looks glossy, but it dries very matte finish. I'll just spray some glossy stuff on it. It'll look like the ashtray did. Sorry to disorient everybody, but that's the back right knee action shock absorber that is totally crusted off with stuff. So I got the tires off here. I'm going to get that back shock absorber, and then all the shock absorbers will be done. I'll do the other side too. There, we're cleaned up a little bit. That's the filler plug there. I did a good job of blowing it off. He said don't get no dirt down into there because a few grains of dirt can plug up the action of your shocks. So I cleaned it up pretty good. I'll take that plug out, fill it up to a 1/2 inch. It says it needs an air space of a 1/2 inch up there, so I marked off a toothpick and I'll dip it down in there and make sure it's a 1/2 inch, below there. And I'll do the same on the other side there too, and that'll take care of rear shocks. All right, and now we have a much better looking gas cap down in there. It's a small thing, but I wanted something that was easy and just kind of was done and finished, and that was great to have done. And then we went ahead and I've got the new white wall tires, and those are new rims, of course, and I went ahead and popped the hubcaps on just because I got tired of looking at the car without wheels on it. So it's looking more like a real car, finally. And let's see. Oh, I should also show. Grant helped me out today. There really wasn't a lot to do in the how of it, but I was annoying me that I had them holes there in the bottom. I tried brazing them and it kind of worked okay. And then we wound up doing some kind of like Bondo filler instead. And Grant smoothed that up and sanded it down and closed it off there. So we'll see how it holds up. If it doesn't, then we'll have to do something a little more drastic. Probably should use some of that sealer that they use on the inside of kerosene lamps or something like that. They got new stuff for pulling up leaks and things. But anyway, I probably still have a little bit of engine work left to do, so I won't put the air cleaner on fully yet. That vacuum advance line still needs to be repaired, but anyway, that's small stuff. So we're coming along nicely. It's getting very close to being at least a driver. So kind of excited about that. Let's call it a day.